Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. Here we go now. Here we go now. The wellness scene with Dr. D. Here we go now. Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. The wellness scene with Dr. D.
Welcome, everyone, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com. Excuse me, had a little frog in my throat. This is Ginny Gunther, also known as Ginny Almighty, and I'll be your host this evening along with Dr. Carolyn Dean for 2 hours of ruckus and uproarious behavior as we celebrate the fact that we have figured out how to live well and generously and alive and amazingly healthy lives, of course, because of Dr. Carolyn Dean, using her formulas and understanding the foundation of all health truly is cellular health. And Dr. Dean having put together and composed not only a great awareness and understanding of how our cells work and what they require, but also how to incorporate that into your daily lives and also to balance that out with a little smidgen of movement and exercise over here, little smidgen of good nutrition over here, and a whole lot of love and care. So we're so happy to have you with us this evening. We hope you're going to join us in this celebration, and we're going to delight you with great information. We're going to delight you with great testimonials. We're going to give you positive and powerful feedback, and we're going to allow you to come on and tell your story and share your circumstances and talk with Dr. Dean if you choose to get your little pinch of wisdom that you may need to help you move your life forward. And we're so happy to have Dr. Carolyn Dean because not only is she a doctor, and she is a very good doctor, and I've seen it with my own eyes, but she is a naturopath, which means her primary focus is not only doctoring people, but also using nature in its intended consequence as part of that healing process. And then she's done so many modalities, so many therapies. She's so well-read. But, you know, one of the advantages of really talking to Carolyn is she's seen it all, ladies and gentlemen. Honest to goodness, she has seen 50 years of the health and wellness industry parade right in front of her eyes. She's seen every racket, every fad, every gimmick, every game. And what she's also seen is the intelligence of the human body never failing if it's being given the right building blocks. And that's what she relies on, not the intelligence of this crazy world we live in, but the intelligence of the human body to accompany itself with great building blocks and give us dynamic living. So we're going to bring her on this evening. Let me just, before I do, let you know that, of course, she is not going to give medical advice on this radio show, ladies and gentlemen. No, she would not do that. But she will absolutely tell you what she would do if it were her in your circumstances. And she'll do that with ease and grace and a lot of joy and a lot of wisdom. So welcome this evening, Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Yay. Thank you, Ginny. Great to be here. Appreciate your incredible introductions. Bob loves them, too. He's over in the corner cheering away at another wonderful Ginny intro. Bob wishes he could have the same for himself, but he has to take a back seat on Mondays anyway. We usually start with Ginny's weekly blog, but two instances this past week came up where two customers, but one customer and one potential customer were emailing back and forth with customer service, and quickly realized that we've got a medical emergency here, and that I guess in a certain sense, this is why the FDA wants people who sell dietary supplements and offer customer service not to give out medical advice or distract people from going to a doctor, because we'll get people who will email in a whole host of symptoms or potential problems, or I've been on 50,000 units of vitamin D and I don't feel well, or my doctor did a magnesium RBC test and says it's normal, so I don't know why. I think I have magnesium deficiency. And one potential customer who's just emailing in her concerns then emailed us back and said, actually, I had appendicitis and went to the doctor, and now I'm going in for surgery. And that was someone who, some of these people may be emailing dozens of different websites and asking for advice, or be on forums and asking for advice. But we really always have to say to people, just dial it back a bit. Just look at your circumstances and what's going on. One customer service email exchange was with a customer, and I'll go over this briefly. This person was on the yeast detox, and she said, I'm doing 1 tablespoon of bentonite, 1.5 teaspoons of psyllium, 15 drops of grapefruit seed extract. I just finished 1 week on the grapefruit seed extract last night. I woke up at 1:30 a.m. with terrible stomach cramps, and I do not feel good at all today. I've been awake since 1:30 a.m. Could you please give me some advice as to whether or not to continue today with the bentonite, psyllium, and antifungal, or what I should do about taking that? Also, should I take all my other supplements today? My stomach feels really bad, almost flu-like with lots of cramps. And so Melody Rose sent me this query right away, but then she immediately sent back to this customer that I might not answer for 24, 48 hours. And Melody Rose said, if the why do people call up strangers, us, with true medical emergencies for help? And there are reasons, because they can't afford to go to a doctor, or they don't trust doctors, or they're kind of in denial and hope it's just something simple and not something that they have to go to ER for, or they're just not feeling confident in their own ability to know their own body, and yet they want to be told what to do. And if what we say doesn't work for them, maybe that they think, well, then I have someone to blame, and I don't have to blame myself. So there's a lot going on, and I just throw out those possibilities, but I'm going to pull Ginny into the discussion and see what she's experienced with people, because I only hear like a tiny smidgen of what goes on in customer service when I finally get an email. But it's unbelievable what these folks are handling and taking care of. And as I started out with, people who will be on the 50,000 units of vitamin D, I mean, what's that doing to them? When I know in my consulting, I used to have people who say, I've had a migraine for 6 weeks, and I realized from what you're writing that it's probably the 50,000 units of vitamin D. And when you go to the hospital and say, have you got a migraine for 6 weeks, they probably won't even ask you about vitamin D. So anyway, Ginny, why do strangers call us in the middle of a medical emergency?
Well, I think it's what you said, Carolyn. I mean, a combination of factors, but maybe they don't have an established family practitioner. They don't trust doctors, and they're trying to diagnose themselves. And unfortunately, the Internet has given them an incredible spectrum of opportunity to go on WebMD and, Internet clinics and all these other things. And then, also to encounter organizations like ours, which are, very high integrous supplement companies. And we do provide a lot of good information for people, and they want a diagnosis. And like you said, not everything can be handled with supplements.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
What I appreciate most about our company is the level of training that everybody has to go through, including Melody Rose, having been with us the longest of all of our customer service people, having this really good intuition and understanding, as she wrote back in her correspondence, that not everything is yeast die-off, that some things, especially extreme cramping and these kinds of things, fevers and all this other that accompany those circumstances have to be treated medically. So, I'm really proud of our customer service team. They do handle a lot. And the other thing is that people's inclination to, quote-unquote, blame or to try to assess blame on, say, starting a new supplement or something of that nature when they are authentically not well. And, of course, they've got to sift through all that. So we just say all that to say, there is this, like we said, fine line with the FDA. And even though people have various degrees of, thinking about the FDA and stuff, the one thing that we do know is that what they believe supplements are for is for increasing health. And so we're on that side too. We want people to build their health, their vitality, and well-being. And the other thing is that when you have a magnesium deficiency, the way you get magnesium sufficient is through proper saturation, and that's one of the things that our products will do is satisfy and saturate a magnesium deficient person. But it's a complex situation that we're in, mostly because of the Internet. And we we're thankful for it because we want to participate in that and get the word out. But at the same time, we have to be responsible to people in their health journeys. And I just want people who are listening to know that that's the level of integrity we manage our customer service and our company from.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Very good. Yes, so I know the listeners, especially the frequent listeners who are live with us right now, I'm sure you all agree and understand that it is taking personal responsibility for your health, that will allow you to get to the point where you can intuitively know when something is good or not good for you, and when you start getting a symptom and really don't know what's going on. Actually, another reason why I wanted to bring this up today was last night when I was swallowing my 4 little supplements that I take by mouth, aside from my minerals, I get them stuck in my esophagus. And I knew exactly what was happening, but if I knew less, maybe, I would think that I was having a massive heart attack. The pain radiating from my stuck esophagus all through my upper chest, causing me to sweat, pain tingling down my arms. It was incredible. And it was, Bob's looking at me. I was gagging and trying to throw them up, and Bob was busy doing whatever he was doing at his desk, and he started calling out to me, "What's going on over there? Stop that noise!" So there, Bob just put his phone on, so there's feedback. So there I was, suffering a heart attack, and Bob was yelling at me to be quiet. But anyway.
Yeah, I knew she'd gagged on the water or something. It happens about once a week, Judy.
It does not. But anyway, that is totally aside from the point that, seriously, I could have been having a heart attack with the symptoms I had, and how many people go through that? And I've often said, my worst fear with doing dietary supplements or recommending them is that people can choke on them, or they can get stuck in the esophagus. The gelatin capsules can melt if they go down sideways. So anyway, Ginny, that is just a little sidebar levity.
But Carolyn, you have to admit that I've heard you choke like that for 40 years, right? Every now and then.
Bob, it could be like once every 5 years.
You've survived all 40 years. I assume you'll survive this one.
That's how far we've gone back, Ginny, where Bob will remember 5 instances in 50 years and make like it's a big deal. So anyway, mute yourself, Bob. We're on to more serious things, unless Ginny has some comment about Bob.
Well, Ginny is just shocked at how I still look the same. I still look the same.
Yes, I did post that on your Facebook page today, Bob. No, we're good. We can go on, Carolyn.
Okay, so Ginny's blog, it was kind of an overall blog, so we got a grab bag of emails. So what Ginny was talking about in the blog that's at drcarolyndeanlive.com is the importance of magnesium sufficiency to human health. And it's been overlooked. Ginny mentions an old acquaintance of mine who's since passed, a magnesium researcher. Well, she's not a researcher. That's interesting, Ginny. She's a magnesium expert. When I talked to the Alturas, who are bench researchers with 1,000 studies, and I mentioned Mildred Zelig to them, they said, "Oh, she's a magnesium expert. She's not a researcher." So there's these designations. But in 1980, Mildred wrote a book, Magnesium Deficiency and the Pathogenesis of Disease, and her first chapter was about fetus and what they need in terms of magnesium and progressing right up to aging and death. And Ginny continues that the signs and symptoms of magnesium deficiency are vast. And they're so vast, they're so complex in a sense, they cover so many areas and so many conditions that doctors really cannot believe that all the signs and symptoms that I talk about, all the 65 health conditions that I say have been associated with studies showing that magnesium deficiency can be misrepresented by these diseases. It just is boggling to doctors who've never learned anything about mineral deficiencies or magnesium deficiency in med school. They just don't believe that it exists. I mean, it's that simple. Doctors think magnesium is a laxative, and that's it. I know that's a vast generalization, and some doctors are definitely waking up, but that's where we constantly get the feedback from our customers that, well, my doctor did a magnesium RBC test when I forced him or her to, and I was 3.8 on a range of 3.8 to 5.8, and the doctor said it was normal. And in our world, you have to be up in the higher regions of magnesium to show that you have magnesium sufficiency. So anyway, many people who have a deficiency don't even know it. A lot of health issues are blamed on something else or remain unexplained. In today's world, it's all too easy to become magnesium deficient. You can have a magnesium deficiency if you don't consume enough of the nutrient in your diet, or if your body doesn't absorb enough when it goes through your system. Other things like consuming too much alcohol, sugar, certain medications can also deplete your body's magnesium. I would say all medications. And I just made an extra note here that all things that can cause irritable bowel syndrome can make it difficult for people to not get enough magnesium. And IBS affects 20% of the population. And then you look at all the other intestinal conditions that can make it difficult for you to absorb magnesium. Now, we do get around that, of course, with our Remag because it's 100% absorbed at the cellular level. It does not need to be digested in the stomach or in the intestines in order to be absorbed. So that's why it works so well for people who've even tried many other magnesium products. They start with Remag, and it's a whole new world. And magnesium is depleted through consistent, vigorous exercising like running marathons, CrossFit, biking, something many health activists do to stay healthy. And actually we got a very sweet testimonial from a former Blue Jays ball player, and he's just over the moon that he finally found Remag and Remite, and I guess he must be in his 40s, mid to late 40s, and he says he feels like he's 20 years old again. So, yeah, we're doing amazing things. And so we just make note that there are so many reasons you can be low in magnesium, and then we get emails like the following, which this is quite amazing when people come to us and ask us if magnesium can help all these conditions, and we can pretty much say it can. So a customer is saying, I've been talking with my mother, 77 years old, about magnesium deficiency and supplementing with your products due to her many symptoms and deficiency factors: depression, fatigue, weakness, hyperparathyroidism, asthma, memory loss, pre-diabetic, Parkinson's, on a number of prescription meds, high-dose vitamin D, persistent urinary tract infections. She had breast cancer and treated with chemo and radiation about 12 years ago, and was diagnosed with the idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis last year. So the first question of two is there a relationship between magnesium deficiency and pulmonary fibrosis? Well, I mean, what happens, it's kind of horrifying, but chemo and radiation both can damage the lungs to the extent of causing pulmonary fibrosis. So that would be the first cause you'd look at. But searching pulmonary fibrosis and magnesium, there are rat studies that show that the lungs of magnesium-deficient rats who are then put under some sort of shocking experience can develop lung damage, atelectasis, generalized edema, hemorrhage, and pleural petechiae. which can result in fibrosis as the scarring occurs. Pulmonary fibrosis is scarring and thickening of the tissues around and between the air sacs in the lungs. So the cause is the radiation and the chemotherapy. What I'd say about magnesium, it can help any sort of inflammation, but magnesium deficiency is not a cause of pulmonary fibrosis. However, everything else, the depression, fatigue, weakness, hyperparathyroidism, memory loss, pre-diabetic, being on prescription meds, the assault of high-dose vitamin D, all that, all those symptoms can be a result of magnesium deficiency. Or by doing magnesium, you can help the magnesium deficiency symptoms. And the second question, how do I advise my mother regarding mineral supplementation? Because of all these symptoms, I'm not sure how to direct her. She is very interested, although I haven't been able to convince her to consult with an alternative practitioner. Now, interest, that's awesome. I mean, all we want is someone to be interested, because what we do with the mineral supplementation is the same for everyone. There is no mystery to how we do this. We just say to people, start with a quarter teaspoon, put it in a liter of sea salted water, and sip it through the day. And every 2, 3, 4 days, you know, the more sensitive to drugs, the more concerned, the more symptoms a person has, you would stretch out the days between increasing. And you keep increasing until the symptoms are disappearing, or until you get to what we call a therapeutic dose, although we're not allowed to say therapeutic dose. We say saturation dose. The saturation dose itself can differ for different people, but we're saying about 3, even 4 teaspoons is a saturation dose. I had to do the 4 teaspoons a day for about 1.5 years to get rid of my magnesium deficiency and the symptoms that went with it. So that's the beginnings of an answer. This daughter can phone up customer service if there's more questions or more to be learned. The next blog question, I'll do a few more. It's about magnesium and blood donation. Now, we've never had this question before. This woman says, I recently had some of the classic symptoms of magnesium deficiency: eye twitch, leg muscle spasms, light sensitive, sound sensitive, heart palpitations, and a lot of no sleep nights because of the heart palpitations. I believe it was brought on mainly by not eating healthy and some recent life stresses. One thing that I think also had an impact is my donating blood twice during this last 6 months of stress. I didn't find anything in the way of research to confirm this, but I've read there's a considerable amount of magnesium in blood. Could donating have exacerbated and quickened my symptoms? I'm a relatively healthy 41-year-old woman. 2 months ago, I had been extremely health conscious, taking lots of Remag, and my symptoms were disappearing. But I know this will take some time to recover. I'm just really wanting to know about the blood donations. Now, actually, there isn't a lot of magnesium in the bloodstream or in the red blood cells, but certainly blood donating, they take, I worked it out one time that they take more than 10% of my body weight, I forget exactly, but apparently they don't like people who are low in weight to donate blood because they have to take a whole pint in order to fill up the bag. And it can take a lot out of you, and if you're not replacing with a good amount of water and sea salt in your Remag and Remite, it can take time to recover. So I don't think it was losing more magnesium, just the stress of the blood donating would have you depleting your magnesium, especially at a crucial time when you're starting to replace it. You're revving up and waking up your 700 to 800 enzyme systems, and then you deplete it with the stress of blood donation, and the body kind of crashes a bit. It goes into the withdrawal of magnesium almost. So you get what I'm saying there. You've woken up your body, you give it some magnesium, and then you take it away, and you just feel the crash all that more. The next question is about RBC blood levels. So this was interesting. This person said, I wrote a while back, I had a 3.5 magnesium level at the time. Now that's below the range. I mean, the range used to be 4.2 at the bottom. Now it's 3.8. So this woman had 3.5, and she said, I was bedridden. I've been taking Remag for 4 months. I'm so much better. There's no comparison. But I just got new blood work with the RBC test, and it still read 3.5. How would this be possible? I know it can take up to 18 months to raise the levels as it's only been 4 months, I see. But why am I feeling better with the same levels? So we created, Melody Rose created an FAQ on magnesium testing, took the content of my Magnesium Miracle 2017 edition, just talking about how RBC Mag is not the best test. The red blood cells don't have a lot of magnesium, yet this test is used. We do use it because eventually the red blood cells will get saturated as the rest of the body does. But it's not the guide that we would love to use. So this woman writes back, thank you for the information. It makes so much sense! Exclamation. And thank you, Dr. Dean. Without your Remag, I don't know where I would be right now. You're a blessing for many people. Very sweet. And someone asked, how can magnesium help with brittle bone disease? Now, brittle bone disease, it's a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. And we wrote back to make sure that's what she was talking about. And she said herself, as I have no doubt it could help because of the calcium bone loss and implications of how magnesium works. I'm hoping there are some cases where it has worked for others to be able to share. Now, I don't know personally of any cases. I think Ginny would have told me if someone had said their osteogenesis imperfecta had shifted. And it is a genetic disorder characterized by bones that break easily, often from little or no apparent cause. And there's a minimum of 20,000, possibly 50,000 cases in the U.S., so it is rather rare. And there's too little type 1 collagen, or poor quality of type 1 collagen, and that's where you need the restructure with the whey protein. For sure, that would help. And also the magnesium will help if you're not doing dairy, the recalci as well. But Ginny, you can pipe in if we have any testimonials, but I don't think we have. But it's certainly important to use magnesium for any bone condition. And even if they say it's a genetic condition, the things that turn the genes on and off are related to the epigenetics of nutrients. And if you get your minerals from the Remag and Remite, your B complex from the Realign, those are the most important epigenetic nutrient factors. So I'm going to stop here and see what Ginny has on chat and on phone calls. you haven't gotten to my blogs or a lot of backlog that we have, but it's just time to move on. Okay, Ginny.
Okay, excellent. Let me just invite people that have called in or want to call in. 602-666-6027 is the phone number. And what you're going to want to do is when you call in, you've got to hit *5 on your keypad. *5 will raise your hand in the studio and let me know you have a question or comment. Otherwise, your phone stays on mute, and I can't dialogue with you. So just hit *5 on your keypad. Again, raise your hand, and then I will put you on the line with Dr. Dean in order of the way people raise their hands, okay? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, we've got some people who've chatted in and also on the InQuick with some questions. So let's get to those. First comment, Julia says, thank you for the information about the brittle bone. I wish I could convince them to try it. And what we say about that, Julia, is do not hesitate to provide them with Dr. Dean's videos and also some of her books because, people do have to come to this information on their own terms, but a lot of times all they're missing is education. So you can convince them through Dr. Dean's writings and videos. We've got a lot of YouTubes, and that will help. Okay, Carolyn, let's also answer these questions. So Maria in Arizona is asking, hi, I just started with Remite, 1/8 of a teaspoon, Remag, a teaspoon last week, and also Recalcia, 1 teaspoon. Can these products cause the blood to get thinner? Also, I got constipation today. Can I stop Recalcia and take my own calcium, old calcium, which was 1,000 calcium and 400 milligrams of magnesium supplement? I think that's what she's saying. CalMag, 1,000 calcium, 400 magnesium, to see if the constipation will go away. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just writing it all down. 1,400. The blood thinning, these minerals are not blood thinners. What they do is help the electrolyte balance of the blood and the cells. They keep everything in balance. And what calcium does is it is a blood thickener, and it does help with blood clotting when it's in the right amount. Now, I'm not going to say taking calcium will cause blood clots. That's not the point. But the balance of magnesium and calcium keeps the blood in the right fluid proportions. I know that sounds a bit strange, but that's what we're trying to achieve, mineral balance here. What happens when you start taking minerals that work, minerals like the Remag, Remite, and Recalcia that are stabilized ions, these minerals jump right into your cells and pull fluid in after them. They pull water, they pull the edema out of people's ankles and fingers. They actually redistribute the fluid away from tissues into the cells where the fluid needs to be to do its work. So when you take your minerals and all that water, all that fluid is getting into your cells, you can get constipated because you need to be taking the fluid, the amount of water we talk about in our fluid or our water guidelines. Take your body weight in pounds, cut that in half, drink that many ounces of water a day, and in that water for each liter or quart, you put a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. The asking about stopping the CalMag, well, 1,000 milligrams of calcium might be absorbed 4 to 10%. So you're only getting 40 to 100 milligrams of calcium absorbed possibly. The rest of that calcium can precipitate in the body and itself cause constipation. However, with the 400 milligrams of poorly absorbed magnesium, it's likely a magnesium oxide. That can cause diarrhea. So you've got this horrible push-pull of CalMag supplements. Calcium and magnesium, they should be equal parts. And that's why we say with the Remag, 600, 900 milligrams is a good amount to get into saturation. And if you need calcium, make sure you're getting 600 in your diet. Otherwise, add that teaspoon of Recalcia, 300 milligrams. So that's sort of a dissertation on what's going on with you, Marie. Hopefully you'll just continue taking what you're taking, but increase your water ingestion and add the sea salt into your water. You can chat back and follow up with a question if you have one. So there.
Excellent. Very good. Excellent. Okay, and let's, Douglas typed in. Dr. Dean was talking about pulmonary fibrosis being possibly caused by radiation. I recall that she also mentioned in the past that the RNA drops would help to alleviate radiation symptoms. Does she see that RNA could be helpful for pulmonary fibrosis?
I wouldn't be able to say that, Douglas. Personally, I take my RNA drops because supposedly we're near the Fukushima radiation, and by taking my RNA drops, I just completely forget about it. I personally think that I'm protected against anything with RNA drops, but I would never be able to prescribe or even recommend RNA drops for any condition, because that would be me diagnosing, and that would be me going above and beyond. But certainly we know the RNA drops do amazing and miraculous things, and I thank you for bringing that up.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, 602-666-6027 if you've got a call. Talk to Dr. Dean, *5 on your keypad. And Carolyn, we can press on with our important schedule at this time.
Oh, our schedule is so important. We have so many important things to say, and it is awesome. It's just totally awesome what's going on. And when a ball player from the Toronto Blue Jays, our old hometown, writes in that he feels like he's 20 again, I mean, that is incredible. Okay, we are going to a couple of blogs that have been up since last week. There are 3, actually. Illness, anxiety disorder. Oh, I do remember talking about that, where they're now trying to say hypochondriasis is this new term, illness, anxiety disorder, which puts all the anxious people into a bucket of hypochondriasis. I think that's just horrible. The more recent blogs, one of them is migraine prevention injection versus magnesium. So what's happened is there's the latest new invention by the drug companies for migraines, which is a very serious, painful condition. This is an injectable for migraine prevention. It's a topic of a Medscape article. I don't even know how to pronounce it. They're just crazy names. Aranumab. And the generic name is Aimovig, or maybe it's vice versa. So it's a calcitonin inhibitor. And I say, well, guess what? Calcitonin's job is to decrease the level of calcium in the blood by suppressing parathyroid hormone. Guess what else? Magnesium does a better job of directing calcium out of the blood and into the bones and teeth where most of it belongs. Do a little more thinking, and it will be obvious to you that suppressing hormones in the body is a really bad idea. The original study that allowed the FDA to consider approval of this drug included 246 patients with refractory episodic migraine. results showed that a 50% or greater reduction in mean monthly migraine days was achieved by 30% of those treated subcutaneously. It's an injection once monthly versus 13.7 of those receiving a placebo. Okay, so let's do the math. If you subtract the number of people responding to placebo, only 16.3% benefited with reduction of migraine with the injection. Sit back and think about that for 2.3 seconds before you scratch your head that doctors actually think this is a breakthrough drug, and the price tag is $6,900 a year. And what I had at the beginning of the blog and then at the end of the blog is about a Dr. Moskop, who's a New York migraine specialist who did studies with the Alturas on magnesium for migraines. And he says, and I have to click on it again, and Moskop says that, quote, considering that up to 50% of patients with migraines could potentially benefit from this extremely safe and inexpensive treatment, it should be recommended to all migraine patients. So what makes more sense to you? Using an injectable drug at a cost of almost $7,000 per year or magnesium? So that's my little sarcastic blog, but it's a sad blog too because people with horrible pain are desperate, and if their insurance covers the $7,000 a year, they're going to go for it. Drug companies are going to make their money, and people are going to have a 16% benefit. The next blog is Mitochondria Need Magnesium, and this I was interested in looking at because I thought I'd learned something, and I was sure they'd put magnesium into the picture, but of course they didn't. And it's a great little overview of mitochondria and the importance of it. So commonly known as the powerhouses of the cell, the major role of mitochondria is to produce energy, ATP, in the Krebs cycle using magnesium in 6 of its 8 steps. I'm saying that, they aren't. But its other roles include calcium homeostasis, and in brackets I put, which requires magnesium, apoptosis or cell death, and in brackets I put, which is triggered by magnesium deficiency affecting the telomerase, free radical species generation, in brackets I put, which is hastened by magnesium deficiency, radical species scavenging, in brackets I put, assisted by magnesium, steroid biosynthesis, brackets magnesium aids in production of steroids, orchestrating metabolism, and in brackets magnesium helps digest protein, fats, and carbs. And on and on and on. Everything that mitochondria do is supported by magnesium, yet the author doesn't acknowledge magnesium specifically. She does say that it is increasingly recognized that nutrition and vitamins are very important for the functioning of the mitochondrial electron transport chain and all of the enzymes within it. The nutrients that are recommended do mention the B vitamins and antioxidants, but ignore magnesium. I mean, she even says the electron transport chain, and which require minerals. She admits that they don't understand the precise optimal diet for any one patient with mitochondrial disease. So because they haven't scientifically proven a diet protocol, they make no recommendations. And she says the future for mitochondrial disease predictably mentions that when the precise genetic cause is identified, models can be created either in the patient's own cells or in animal models. These will help to better understand the way in which the biochemistry has caused a problem in the mitochondria. From there, therapies such as mitochondrial medicine, supplement regimes, nutrients, and exercise can be tested to precisely understand whether they are helpful or harmful in any one type of mitochondrial disease. I mean, it's just such gobbledygook. Let's look for the gene and treat the gene, and don't even think about magnesium, because we never learned about it in med school. Yes, Bob?
Who's saying this?
A doctor who writes a Medscape overview of mitochondria. Okay?
Yeah, you wrote, I saw that in the title the other day. So you're talking about your recent blog?
Yeah.
And why is this doctor doing that? What prompts them to be wrong or whatever it is?
Because there's research on mitochondrial disease and what causes it, and they're trying to find a drug to treat mitochondrial disease.
And nothing about magnesium or your stuff, so.
No, useless. Useless. Okay, so Bob's muted himself. I don't hear feedback anymore. Thank you, Bob. So that's the blogs. There were a couple of comments on previous blogs that I have in the mailbag. Let me just get those out of the way. It was about who's making your supplements, my tongue-in-cheek about someone whose friend or acquaintance said, oh, you shouldn't listen to Dr. Dean. She's selling supplements. So as if all my words are tainted by the fact that I'm making money by selling dietary supplements. And my response was, well, who else is going to make your supplements? Who else has enough knowledge about nutrients and chronic disease and the baseline root cause of disease these days being nutrient deficiencies and yeast overgrowth? Who's going to make the supplements that work? It's not the FDA, not the drug companies, and it's not supplement companies that are being increasingly run by former drug company executives who just want to now make a killing with supplements. So someone wrote, this is why Dr. Carolyn Dean will succeed where others have failed. The magic bullet everyone is looking for is the healing powers of their own human body fully restored. Is there a yay from the children? That's cute. Someone else wrote, I decided... Yeah. It made me jump, Ginny. Did you see me jump, Bob? Yep, Bob saw me jump. And someone else writes, I decided some time ago that the only way to find out if a product is genuinely going to improve your health is to try it out. Having read many of the books and articles, I decided that your products would be worth a try. Because of the way you write, I've understood fully the reason why your products are the only option. I've been taking Remag and Remite for almost 8 months, and I have never in my 54 years felt better in ways too numerous to list here. I'm not surprised that people are suspicious. After all, there are countless folk out there, both well-meaning and downright villainous, who are willing to take our money and provide us with no benefit. I feel so fortunate to have come across your teachings and products. Thank you. So that was awesome. And yes, try it. I mean, how many times have we seen people, especially on, say, Facebook and maybe even on Amazon at the product, saying, well, there's better magnesiums in this. How can this be any good? And instead of having a fight with them and saying, well, why don't you try it? We just say, well, they're entitled to their own opinion. But that's the point. Have you tried it to be able to critique it? Now we're almost up to the top of the hour, so I'll just continue on. Someone here says, and this came out in a blog from Chad just today, I think, but this is awesome. I had histamine intolerance for 14 years. I was researching my brain years more than dry eyes, headache, brain fog, nervous anxiety, IBS constipation, irregular menstrual cycle. I found various supplements to help me, but nothing cured it until I started taking Remag and Remite. The last stubborn thing was my IBS constipation, so I viewed one of your videos, and you said to add Realign. Guess what? The IBS constipation is now corrected too. I can't believe it. Years of research and supplements, and this was all I've really ever needed. I have recently bought a website domain to tell my story and share the good news. Everyone needs to know about magnesium and mineral deficiency. Thank you. And here we are, up to the top of the hour. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bill.
All righty, excellent. Yes, we are at the top of the hour. And, Carolyn, let me just say that Maria did type in and said, great, it looks like everything's going to be working. It looks like this is working well. I will continue with Remag and Recalcia. Thank you. So with that, we are going to take our break, and we will be back for the next hour of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com.
We'll be back with Hour 2 of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean, along with host Ginny Gunther, after this brief station break. You can also get updates and resources online by visiting drcarolyndean.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is AchieveRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AchieveRadio.
You can climb floors and then worlds show up. You can go downstairs and worlds disappear. You can go downstairs up on the rooftop and you open the door and take a step and you go, I'm on the rooftop. Wait a minute, I better pay attention. So that becomes a fun thing. So that's why we have to come back and say this, relax and allow, soften it up, get your foot off the gas, don't slam on the brakes, just let it coast where you want it to go. Soften, be easy about all this, and stop making a great big huge thing out of great big nothingnesses, because the nothingnesses are serving you very well. You like this blissful place of not caring, because now you care so much about everything that you've got yourself in a position where you don't really care about anything. Good. It's wonderful. Thank you. We are happily, easily ready for more in your experience.
AchieveRadio.com.
Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. Here we go now. Here we go now. The wellness scene with Dr. D. Here we go now. Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. The wellness with Dr. D.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Thanks for joining us tonight or listening whenever you get caught up with the archives. We have the most amazing archives, 8 years of radio shows. You can search them through our searchable index. Melody Rose always types out a transcript of the show with the timelines. All that is available at drcarolyndeanlive.com. So drcarolyndean.com is her weekly blog, but drcarolyndeanlive.com is our radio archive. It's got videos, books, everything, very beneficial. Be sure to stop there. And also, we found a lot of people saying that when they get sick or discouraged, especially if they're dealing with something chronic, they're working through, say, AFib or something where they're really remineralizing their entire body. They're hoping for some, long-term sustainable results. go back through and listen to the archives and be encouraged when you hear the journey of many of our customers who've had to go through that process, and they call in and share their experience and how they're progressing. It's very edifying. So you've got that option too. Welcome back, Dr. Dean. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I relieved myself and then filled myself up with sea salted water again, so I'm in good shape. You know, some people, Jenny, they just think, I don't want to drink too much water because it'll just make me go to the bathroom, and it's just crazy. I've had people say to me, I hate water, I won't drink it. And this last person that said that to me, I said, well, you might as well just take a gun and shoot your brains in, because that's what you're doing to yourself. You're killing yourself if you don't drink enough water. And then that water does have to have minerals. All our water now, it's filtered at so many levels. It's filtered at the water treatment plants, for Pete's sakes. They have to take out the debris and all the rest of it. And then most people drink filtered water. If you're not, and if you're drinking bottled water, look at the label. Most of the water bottles are distilled, or they're just tap water, which is all filtered, or they're, telling fibs, or they're reverse osmosis, which is very similar to distilled water because it just takes everything out. So this is why we hammer on about doing your sea salted water and drinking enough water. I mean, who has ever told you that when you take minerals, you really should drink more water? And they haven't. They haven't told you that because they haven't figured that out. That doesn't happen when you take dirt minerals, but it does happen when you take stabilized ionic minerals that you'll only find in Remag and Remite and Recalcia. And those minerals go directly into the cells. They pull in the water. The cells happily get to work, and then if you're not drinking enough water, you get constipated. And you say, oh, why is Remag making me constipated? That's terrible. Okay, so we have solved the constipation problem, our minerals. We will move on now. Okay, Ginny?
Excellent. Okay, for some reason, people have intermittently been typing on the chat room that the audio is not working. This happened at the beginning of the first hour. Bill, can you check that? Because I have no problem hearing Carolyn, and it's just one or two people that are saying that. Now, the other thing is you can always refresh your browser and see if that may be the source of the audio issue. But I haven't had any issue here, so I don't know. Mm-hmm. It is something to think about. Okay. Now, let's see where we're at. 602-666-6027, *5, if you want to talk to Dr. Dean. So far this evening, everybody's content to just listen to us carry on, Carolyn. So I guess we'll just keep carrying on.
Lovely. Yes, I have a lot of mailbag emails for everybody. Here's a wonderful kind of testimonial with someone talking about reliving your health conditions, and it's self-explanatory. So this wonderful customer says, I began my first total body reset bundle mid-February, gradually increasing over the coming weeks. A few days ago, so what have we got, mid-February, now we're mid-June, so it's just a few months out. A few days ago, I added Recalcia. I'm now waiting for Renew to complete the products. I feel compelled to contact you and report the following. Number one, an infected bone in a dental procedure was removed January 2014. A pocket remained behind my replacement tooth, which was a constant worry to keep clear of food particles. I realized a few weeks ago that something was happening in the hole. I thought food was stuck. Then I realized the hole was getting smaller and smaller. Amazingly, the bone seems to be growing back. Now that is awesome. And also, if it's a tissue area that has to be filled in, the way the minerals work is they will help heal tissue. RNA drops will help perfect cells. So we're not surprised. We have had people who've talked about their even dental, their teeth sort of filling in and the dentin improving on their teeth discoloration going away. Number 2, I developed a skin infection in my ears 20 years ago after being pushed underwater in a swimming pool in Jamaica. I've used lotions and potions over the years, but the problem has continued to upset me with its constant itching. After all these years, this problem has suddenly nearly cleared, and there's no itching whatsoever. Now, I don't know if that could be a bit of a fungal or yeast infection, and certainly what we're looking at here is the immune system being supported so that the body can deal with these things. We just support the brilliant body for what it can do. Number 3, a week ago my lips began to feel sore. This continued to persist and extended all over both upper and lower lips. A few days ago I woke to find an enormous cold sore in the middle of my top lip and numerous ones across my bottom lip. Very, very sore, and they look awful. I've suffered cold sores all my life, more particularly in my first 30 years. I'm believing the worst is being revisited and will then disappear forever. So what happens there is viruses can come to the surface, and at that point, I mean, that's where the Pico Silver could help support the body and viral overload. There are homeopathic herpes remedies that I talk about probably in my Future Health Now encyclopedia. So yes, revisiting all these things is quite fascinating for someone such as this customer who sees it as a benefit. Some people find them that this could go on. Number 4, the final point. The neuropathy I'm experiencing has extended all over and increased in intensity. I take no drugs. I'm believing once again the maxim of it's getting worse before it gets better. So that's come to the surface, the neuropathy. So I wrote back already and said, yes, body reset, old conditions can resurface, and it can feel like your health is getting worse before it gets better and stays better. The body works in priorities, which means that reactivating your herpes virus is your body's next priority. Your body may be bringing your herpes virus to the surface now so that your new improved immune system can help eliminate the virus. The neuropathy might be a bit different. When magnesium deficiency affects the nerves, they can be numb, but then when the nerves are woken up by taking magnesium, the nerves can react, and from their numb state, they become tingly and irritated. Those transition symptoms usually go away with continued saturation with magnesium. With total body irritation, I recommend therapeutic amounts of Remag, 3 teaspoons. I recommend that what I would take is therapeutic amounts of Remag, 3 teaspoons, and adding daily Epsom salts baths, at least 2 cups in a moderately hot bath for 30 minutes. And then you could also use a Remag lotion just to really get on top of that skin where the nerves are irritated. Some reactions to the formulas can be the amount of toxicity in your body or any one of the 14 factors in my blog, When Magnesium Makes Me Worse. None of this means that the formulas are bad for you. We liken our formulas to taking our favorite foods, the exact nutrients that your body needs. It's possible that you're taking too much of the formulas that create more detoxification than healing. So I said that because we have forever to get over our magnesium deficiency and deficiency symptoms. And what some people will do is they'll really force high doses of Remag into their bodies and say that they'll just put up with the detoxification. But if this person is saying that the neuropathy is too much, then you can cut back just a little bit and just, giving your body a chance, I said, to catch up and achieve a good balance point. But I really don't like to say to people that, yes, stop your Remag while you get rid of symptoms, because once you've started the magnesium train going, it's pretty hard to stop it. And if you stop your Remag, then the body feels that it's going into withdrawal, and that can be symptomatic. I'm going to go over to Ginny and see if she's got any chat or phone calls. I have lots more mailbags. Ginny.
I just want to remind you maybe, or I don't know, because I have been multitasking, did you talk about the lysine in the drops and also in the Restructure and how that works with the herpes?
Oh, my gosh. Thank you. No, I did not. From all my work with herpes and having cold sores myself when I was young and getting them activated every once in a while in the sun, and when I do hot and cold plunges at the spa, you can reactivate latent viruses. Well, knowing all about that, I knew lysine was really important, so we did put extra lysine, 1,000 milligrams per dose, on top of the lysine that's already in Restructure. So whey in our Restructure is high in lysine. We put another 1,000 milligrams per serving of Restructure. So with that, what we're doing is working on viruses. Our RNA drops do test high for lysine as well. So it's an important amino acid. I don't really like individual amino acid therapies, but mixed up with the whey, there's a good balance of all the other amino acids. So, yes, you are part of the treatment of the synergistic formulas is getting that extra hit of lysine. And now that we've added the Pico Silver solution, that has properties that help boost the immune system against all the infections. Silver was what was used in ancient times, and even today I think it's still as silver nitrate dropped into poor little infants' eyes to make sure they don't have gonorrhea eye infections. I mean, every baby is subjected to this, even though maybe only 1% of mothers deliver vaginally and have gonorrhea infection. But it just shows it's a safe mineral that's used for infections. We're not saying it's used for infections. We're saying it's used for supporting the immune system. Okay, Jenny, there's your lysine. Yes.
Thank you, love.
Okay. Jenny loves me. It's so fantastic to get loved by Jenny. Thank you. And you said, I've been with Jenny a lot lately, and she says love, and there's so many neat little words you use to describe people. I find myself using them all the time now. I'm on with tech support. Yeah, thank you, love, and spreading the love. I even say to Bob sometimes, but he rejects it. There is no such thing as love.
Reject.
Love is a force field. Bob's reaching for the mute button. You're not going to press it? Bob's not going to press the mute button. He's over there laughing. It's so funny. He's all way over the other side of the room laughing at me. So, Ginny, do you have anything more for me, or will I just plunge ahead into the mailbag?
Plunge ahead, love.
Okie dokie, love. Okay, here's a story, kind of a teaching story, I would call it. So this woman says, I bought Remite because after researching a ton, I believe I may have many symptoms that indicate low magnesium in my body. I have had a very aggressive skipped heartbeat since December. when I believe a sinus infection with antibiotics and the flu a month later and the antiviral drug they gave me may have all caused this low magnesium with added heart issues. I've had harder stools as well, though I am drinking half my weight in water. I have dry eyes, dry mouth, many other symptoms that have been recent to my health. I've seen a rheumatologist, 2 cardiologists, an ENT, had MRIs of my brain, CAT scans and blood work, sonograms of all parts of my body. I have gotten back all normal results, and I'm told I need to see a counselor and or take some anti-anxiety meds, even though I've told them I have strong faith in God, Jesus, and a strong, healthy relationship with my husband of 28 years. I talk very freely with both, and I know how to relax and calm myself down, and I do not feel anxious. I really feel like my heart problem is purely physical. Then when I get severely symptomatic, a strong skip every 1 to 3 beats for a long time, maybe all day, some anxiety symptoms try to sneak in, but again, I know how to calm them down. But the heart continues. I'm very frustrated. I ordered the Remag and have started taking a half teaspoon in once a week, 2 times per day. I started taking 3/4 Remite the same way, 1 time per day, but stopped today because I thought I may be overdoing it to start. So yeah, that's not what we recommend. We recommend a 1/4 teaspoon to start. Put it in your liter of sea salted water. See, that way when we say put it in the liter of sea salted water, we know you're taking your sea salt and getting all those 72 minerals, and you're slowly easing into the minerals. So she says, at first I felt a calming effect and my bowel movements became normal. Some other effects have been noticed too, like my skin seems more moist, my eyes aren't dry. Overall, I definitely feel more hydrated, praise God, but my heart seems worse sometimes. Oh, I forgot to say, I'm in my 7th day of trying this. So she's early on. I'm 52.5 years old. I don't have my uterus but have my ovaries, so I think some of this relates to hormones. But all my levels are, quote, normal, according to the doctors. I'm not anxious, but the constant skip beats are making me crazy. What Dr. Jean says makes a lot of sense, so I'm trying this. I need help moving forward. Now, we've already gotten back to this wonderful customer to say that go slowly. You're only on day 7. You've kind of stirred things up with your heart, and something's getting good means you're on the right track, but just stirring things up a bit with your electrolytes until they get in balance, you just kind of force things with a little too much to begin with. And, I mean, that's what we tell all our folks. Just go a little slower, be patient, read the AFib book. That's what I had with I call my heart problem. It wasn't AFib, it was heart palpitations, but it'd be like every 3rd beat would drop. And I would have a little cough. I would cough when I dropped the beat, so it's very annoying. And another, what I call teaching story, I spent 3 weeks out of state helping with a newborn and a toddler. I did very well during my time away. However, after returning, I jumped back into life, and I've not felt nearly as strong and well since. My heart has had irregularities of some kind daily. I know I've been under some stress with a remodel project and dust in my bedroom and frustrations with the project not going well. I do have family stress with my son. I'm, however, struggling to not be too down about this. So she's taking 4 teaspoons of Remag, doing the salted water, 2 teaspoons of Remite, her vitamin C. Okay, so what her question was is she was away and was fine, and then she's back and she's worse. So basically, I'd say that when she was away with all the adrenaline of helping out in this new situation, the adrenaline can kind of keep you going for a bit, and you've got a granddaughter or grandson, you're excited. The adrenaline is keeping you going. But then when you get to your own home, you'll have that letdown. And that's when the real magnesium deficiency and stress set in. So I think basically that's the point I wanted to make, that as I said to her, or agreed with her, that stress is going to always be there. She's probably not saturated yet. It's only early on in the process. And, where the labyrinth of the mind kicks in and doubts what she's been doing, and knowing at a certain point, well, this is what I really needed to do, but then, I had this relapse. So is it really what I should be doing? So it's like reassessing why you started the process in the first place. So anyway, it's quite a long recital of what's been going on, but I answered her, and she said, just wondering what you suggest for all my concerns. I do realize you said 18 months for your body, but when life keeps throwing stress balls, what is one to do with the repercussions on the body? So I said, get this, Ginny, you'll love this. We hunker down and get actively patient. And I said to this customer, I just invented a new term, actively patient. So this is part of the Lying Down Therapy blog. Actually, I should update the blog. Actively patient. So you just sort of give a little grin or a laugh and say, yes, I have to be actively patient, because what you're trying to do is be actively impatient. We don't want you to be impatient and, kind of make decisions about, well, I'll just stop everything. What's the point? Or this isn't working. And then the labyrinth of your mind starts doubting what you're doing and what has been working. And I think it's partly that, people don't understand the physiology of what goes on. Your adrenaline keeps you going for a while, and then you're going to crash, especially if you're in your beginning stages of magnesium saturation. Ginny, anything for me on your end before I continue on?
Yes, we've got, excuse me, I had a frog in my throat all day. We've got a couple people who would like to know more about how to use the Renew Serum. So, Carolyn, if you could talk about how you use your Renew Serum. And then they want to hear a little bit more about the RNA drops.
Okay, we'll both chime in here. How I use my Renew Serum is at least once a day, I'll put 4 squirts of the Renew Serum in my palm and add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of Remag lotion. And that kind of smooths it out and extends it. And I put that all over my face and the backs of my hands. The backs of your hands, they get wrinkly and spotty too. So I'd always try to keep the backs of my hands involved with the Renew Serum. And that's all I do with mine. Ginny, you can add what you do and what you've heard customers do, okay?
We've got a couple different applications for the Renew Serum. Let me just say that the ozonated olive oil in the Renew is very good. And ozone is an antibacterial and an antifungal. So what you're doing when you're using the Renew is you're really not only just bringing the RNA drops to your skin for that saturation, but you're also using that ozonated olive oil, and it is being an antibacterial and an antifungal. So there's a real great therapeutic nature to the Renew. Now, what a lot of people, we've talked about it, Carolyn and I, that maybe we need to change the name instead of calling it a serum, maybe more of a mask, just because it can get to that poultice point, and it can get a little heavy on the skin. And sometimes people are confused by that because it's not your everyday cosmetic. But the reason why it's not your everyday cosmetic is because it doesn't have the emulsifiers and all that other gunk in it. It's really alive, the Renew Serum is. So We want you to, consider that when you're using it on your face. Maybe put it on, allow it to dry. Sometimes it does give that kind of flaking action on the top, but that's okay because, again, it's pulling out bacteria, pulling out dirt, and all those other kind of things that kind of wear down the skin. It should be very invigorating to your skin. You should definitely feel a perkiness to your skin, or like it will definitely bring the blood, right to the surface of your skin. Great for burns. Amazing for sunburns. If I know a lot of people have aloe plants in their house, in their kitchen and stuff, but whenever I burn myself in my kitchen, I go straight to my Renew. And over the years of taking the RNA drops, and I've been taking them for many years now, what I've noticed is I can tolerate heat on my hands. I don't burn as much, and I don't sunburn as much. So there's that too. So there is something to do with that radiation management, but we're not sure altogether what it is. And then the other thing I will say is it's amazing for acne. And I have 2 young people who I've been living with for some years who have had tremendous success with cystic acne. People talk a lot about how it works with their moles. It'll work with liver spots. So you just get to play with it and have fun with it. So that's that on the Renew.
Right. Now, that's interesting. I know we are talking about working with the formulas, but people can experiment themselves. And what I'm going to do is maybe use a little more Renew, a little more Remag, and kind of put a thick layer on my skin and leave it on for a half hour like you would do a mask, and then wash it off and see if using it in that way, using like more thicker, leaving it on. Actually, what I'll probably do, Jenny, part of my skincare and what I think has helped my skin over the years is I use cleansing grains, combinations of, there may be oatmeal or, cornmeal, all kinds of different scrubby things that act like a bit of a mild dermabrasion. I'm going to mix a fingerful of my cleansing grains with about 4 or 5 drops of Renew serum and 1/8 of a teaspoon of Remag lotion, and scrub my face with that and leave that on for half an hour. So if people want to join me in that experiment, they can do that and let us know what happens. Okay?
I'll join you. That's fun.
Yep.
And
I hear scrapey things on your end. Is your microphone being weird?
You hear scrapey things? Did it stop?
Well, now it's stopped.
Okay, good. I'm in New York City, so I left without my headset, and then I had to borrow somebody else's, and I'm not used to it. So that's probably what the scraping noise was.
Okay, good.
Okay, so that sounds like a blast. Okay, so very good. Look at what everybody's evoking. Charlotte asked that question. Thank you, Charlotte. Like I said, there's not anything that Dr. Dean won't do to herself to play with her formulas and find out new opportunities for people. It's so much fun. She is the ultimate lab rat. Okay, now Marie wants to know about the RNA drops. She said, I've been taking 5 drops a day for 2 weeks. How do I know when to increase the drops? Carolyn? Uh-oh.
Hello?
There you are.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, good. Yeah, I muted myself I wasn't muting myself this time to yell at Bob. I was just muting myself to take a drink. Sorry, Bob. I spoke your name in vain again. I can't even get a rise out of him. He's just over there smiling like a Cheshire cat. Okay, it's pretty intuitive, Marie, with the RNA drops, what you do with them. If you feel like you want to do 2 more drops a day, what we sort of give as a standard dosage is 10 drops twice a day. So we tell people to increase by 1 or 2 drops every week, actually, until they get to the 10 drops twice a day, and either stay there, or if people feel that they're getting too, quote, stirred up, they're evoking old conditions. I mean, this happens with any of our formulas to a greater or lesser extent. Some people feel that the drops accentuate their current mood or where they're at. So some people will tell us, well, I was depressed and I started taking RNA drops and made it worse. Or I was depressed, I started taking RNA drops and it made it better. I mean, how can we judge something like that and give a blanket statement about what people should do? We just know that the RNA drops are something new. There's something we could, trademark, patent. We could patent them. We actually had a preliminary patent in that gave away all our secrets, and then we didn't continue it because the trademark lawyers say it doesn't makes no sense at all what you're doing. And what we found is that it is so unique. It has now, I think, 143 generations where in your RNA drops and in the Renew, there are molecules of the formula from day one. Every generation has a bit of substance put into the next generation.
That's 8 years ago.
8 years ago, right. So that's never been done before. Who does that? What formula have you ever heard in your life that is carrying forth all those generations? And we got the idea of doing that from our non-physical friend Ion. We got the idea from the Bible, all the generations that they talk about in the Bible. Generations are very important. Got the idea from homeopathy, which can do that with just the succussing. You shake up a formula. I won't go into all the details, but you put a little aliquot of what you shook up in the next solution. Shake that up until you dilute it. So we're not doing homeopathy, but it has aspects of homeopathy in the generation. So it's just something awesome that you can play with and ask your body to use it and create the priorities that need to be worked on. Ginny, what do you have to say?
I just want to say that Marie typed in and said, great, thank you. I've been using them on my gums as well as my small abscess went away. No root canal for me right now. And remember, Greg, when he first started using the RNA drops, got rid of his hot pockets in his mouth. And my friend Nikki got rid of her root canal and an abscess using the RNA drops. So what Ion said was the first place that the RNA drops were going to impact people is in the mouth. And one thing that it also seems to do is get rid of plaque. If you are a person who has a problem with plaque, the RNA drops definitely help with that. So it'll start in the mouth, and then, we used to have that. I don't remember it anymore, but we used to have the order. It was like the mouth, and then it was respiration, circulation, so on and so forth, the priorities of the body and how they would embrace the drops. So, yeah. I'll have to look that up. Maybe we can talk about that next show.
Yeah.
Hey, Carolyn, a new topic. Did you see the headlines? Google has made a machine to predict when you die.
Oh my gosh! Just shoot me in the head. So yeah, that we want to know for sure. Thank you, Bob. And the other thing, too, that brings up, Bob, this whole robotic healthcare they're talking about. Soon we'll be talking to a robot or be examined by a robot. Won't that be wonderful for medicine? No, it will not be, because the robot is going to be programmed with drugs and surgery in mind, nothing to do with nutrients. So it's just going to be cheaper for somebody to use a doctor robot. Over to you, Ginny.
Yeah, so true, so true. They're going to take all of the quote-unquote common drug and device wisdom, slap it into a computer, animate it, and then let it be in charge of you. I mean, but you know what? This is perfect because this is exactly what we've been warned about for years by ION. You better come into your power, and you better get on top of this technology, or it is going to run you over. And that's exactly what's happening. People are being so confused by the Android meme, as Bob would say. And if you would like an education, and we don't really talk about too much on the show here, but Bob does have a radio show on Saturday nights, and he also has one on Tuesday nights. And talking about this kind of technology overload is a major theme of Bob's work. And you're welcome to call in and talk with Bob and ask any questions you'd like. And all the information on Bob's shows are on the achieveradio.com website. One is What Youth on Tuesday night, and then the Coach House, which is on Saturday night. So look Bob's show up, and you can also get on Facebook and dialogue with him there.
Hey, Ginny, it's a cliche about George Orwell's 1984, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and all the other science fiction stuff done by Hollywood, but none of them talk about a solution or an antidote to those horrifying robotic takeovers. See, that's what's fun. We have solutions to the horror that's coming. Isn't that neat?
Yes, I know it is. It's very neat, Bob. And you know, a lot of people have a hard time grasping that. But if we don't have a solution, we are all doomed. So yes, It is very important to acknowledge we do have a solution. And you know, by the way, I mean, somebody's got to have one, so it might as well be us, right? I mean, right?
For whosoever will. I really love that statement. It's for whosoever will. When people say, oh, why doesn't everybody know about it? You should be on, you know, this, that, and the other show. No, we're just going to be available to whosoever.
The lucky ones.
The lucky ones. Yes, Ginny.
Yep, absolutely. Agree 100%. Agree 100%. Okay, well, that was exciting.
More stories? Yes, very exciting. Thanks, Marie, for those questions.
Yeah, very good.
More mailbag from me, Ginny?
Let's see. We've got 602-666-6027. If you're on the line for Dr. Dean, *5. For the on your keypad, we've got a caller out in Denver, Colorado. Let's take that call, and also down in Florida. So let's take a couple calls, Carolyn, and then we'll go back to the mailbag.
Okay.
Area code 303, you're on the line with Dr. Dean. If you could give us your name and then state your question or comment.
My name is Jackie. Hi, Dr. Dean.
Ahead, Jackie. Hi,
I'm
Jackie.
a big
Go
fan.
ahead. Okay.
I've been listening for a long time, and I sent an email in, and I won't go into all the details, but I've had a lot of challenges over the last decade, and I'm on the completement formulas. I started with Remag a year ago, and I'm seeing results, so that's the good news. But I was diagnosed with celiac disease about 30 years ago. I have Hashimoto's and some other correlating issues. But my challenge is I can't seem to get my gut back in order. I've cycled months and even a year and more with it not functioning. I've been diagnosed with SIBO and lots of different bacterial treatments. I've done a lot of trying to eliminate the bacteria. I haven't been diagnosed with Candida, although I suspect I eat a very clean diet. But I don't want to lose weight, so I don't do quite the keto diet. I stop short of strict keto. And try and add a few more carbs, but then when I add the carbs, I find it's too much sugar. So I'm really struggling with how to balance the need to maintain the weight, but also to kill off whatever it is in my gut that is not letting me digest properly.
Right.
And
okay. Is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
You can chime in, but let me not forget what I want to say here. Well, the thing about the keto diet, it doesn't have to be a weight loss diet at all. The keto is just a way to stop the carbs, which will stop feeding infections. And if you want to gain weight on keto, well, you just eat more avocados or macadamia nuts or whatever. It's not strictly a weight loss diet. It just seems to be the most convenient diet these days that mimics a yeast-free diet, mimics the specific carbohydrate diet, all the diets that help kill off or starve off the organisms. So think of it that way, and the best thing to do is to do a keto or yeast-free diet. Get my Reset the Yeast Connection book. I've put in the rotation some pico silver, and also I talk about diatomaceous earth for what people may have in terms of parasites. The bottom line for gut problems really is yeast imbalance, and whether or not they find it in the test, I don't really care. I did testing up in Canada. I had my own lab in the basement testing for yeast, and it really didn't correlate. What correlated is the history of antibiotic use and stress and sugar and all the things that create candida. And years and decades later, people can be still suffering the fallout from yeast. And the yeast protocol with the prescripticist probiotics, rotating the antifungals as well as the pico silver and doing the diatomaceous earth, that really does seem to turn things around, as well as doing all the complement formulas. What's missing in all these treatments is having the groundwork of your magnesium saturation, the remite minerals, your realign for the B vitamins, and they're methylated or food-based. It's the minerals and the Bs that really seem to be required for the epigenetic factors that help our body, that deal with whatever's going on a genetic level. And then as well, when you look at Hashimoto's, is that because of yeast toxins? It's quite likely. SIBO, definitely yeast imbalance. But what's happened in the whole leaky gut world is they just talk about bacteria now. And they really do forget about yeast. And then we think, oh, well, okay, yeah, I did yeast treatment years ago. It didn't work. It can't be that. But it's because a person doesn't have the groundwork of the minerals to allow the body then to cope with a yeast treatment and to support the anti-infective herbs and the silver, et cetera, that seem to give the balance. So I just sort of step back a bit, get the Reset the Yeast Connection and read it through and see if it makes sense.
Okay, I read the original book that you mentioned years ago, and I've been pursuing this for a long time about the silver. So just a question about that. I had a doctor who helped me who suspected that I was hyperthyroid, although I always have had a low a high TSH and the high level of antibodies, but because of my symptoms, he said, I think you've been flipping back and forth, and he really cautioned me on not taking any iodine, and I had been given high levels of thyroid hormone. I did the Wilson's temperature protocol, which was very not good for me at all, and but he said, you do not want to be on these high level of thyroid hormones, and he said, I think it sent you into a hyper state, and the iodine. I was also taking Lugol's iodine. So would you, and I've been very careful with the Remite. I'm not taking more than about maybe a teaspoon and a quarter now. What are your thoughts on this cautionary concern with iodine?
Right, that's a very good point, Jackie. What happens with iodine is it will set off the cascade to making thyroid hormone. And so that's what we know physiologically. So doctors will say, well, you've got enough thyroid, maybe hyperthyroid, so you don't want more. Well, what they don't know is the next step after iodine creates its next metabolic product is that you need selenium. So if you look up iodine, selenium, Hashimoto's, and all that, you see that selenium is kind of the balancing point of iodine. So a lot of people who know that say, oh, well, a little bit of iodine is okay. I don't agree with taking Lugol's. Isn't 1 drop of Lugol's, is that 2.5 milligrams of iodine or more?
And I was never really given how much it was. I realized, having done high levels of T3 and the Lugol's, it did send me into quite a bad state, and I was, I lost the ability to sleep and more. I mean, the heart palpitations started.
Right.
So,
and I know we will see that too, Jackie, when people will say they are afraid of the Remite, and like you're doing, just go very slowly. And 1 1.25 teaspoons is good. We recommend 1.5 teaspoons. So you're really close. But what we've done with the Remite, as you've probably read, is we've got all 9 minerals that the thyroid requires to make thyroid hormone. So it's an excellent balancer. People tell us all the time. Today someone emailed, my TSH was 10 and now it's down to 0.4 on 1.5 teaspoons of Remite. So we know it works. In terms of the high antibodies with Hashimoto's, that is very much related to yeast toxins, because the yeast toxins, I don't know the name of the one. I'm trying to recall if I ever knew the name. They cross-react with thyroid tissue. This has been proven that when you have certain levels of toxicity, then they affect the organs and the hormones. They block receptor sites. So to deal with the thyroid, you have to deal with the yeast. To deal with SIBO, you have to deal with yeast. Now, celiac, if it's true celiac, true genetic celiac, then you're avoiding gluten, and that's the story there. But think of all the people who were okay with gluten until all of a sudden they developed all kinds of other symptoms, and all of a sudden their celiac genetic disease announced itself. Well, what was happening beforehand? Are there epigenetic factors with celiac that suddenly expose it when you don't have enough magnesium or the B vitamins? So that's my question about even celiac. So when
I think magnesium has been really, really helpful. I'm still not sleeping through the night. I wonder about, am I putting myself in a hyper state, or is it adrenal fatigue? I don't really know, but I'm taking, the 2 teaspoons of Remag, plus doing the lotion and or putting the Remag into my lotion if I don't have enough lotion. Mm-hmm. But, I'm just struggling with finding that balance with all of it, and not wanting to put I don't want to be hypo or hyper. I want to be balanced.
Sure. I know. So how long have you been using the formulas, and are you using more than just Remag and Remite?
Well, I started with Remag a year ago. There was a gentleman that I met who was really crippled from a knee problem, I don't know if he even knew what it was, and he heard you on a television show. This was years ago. And he started taking the Remag, and like within a week, his knee was cured. It's a great story. So I said, all right. And I had been taking magnesium. So I started that a year ago under his recommendation, and then I added the RNA drops, and then slowly just added everything. And then I've probably been on everything for about 5 months. I do renew, not I don't take the drops internally because I'm I do have celiac disease. I've had the gut biopsy. I had the genetics. I went to the Mayo Clinic, and they said, yeah, you've got both sides, so the genes are expressed from both maternal and paternal. So I really am very, very careful with gluten. And so, but the Renew, I just put that on my skin. So I'm taking all of them, and it's, I definitely, people are saying, wow, you look better. I have gained some weight, and I'm just ready to really reclaim my sleep and my full health.
Right. Okay, so what I would say is being on everything for 5 months, you are still in early stages for all that's going on, so you can be assured that things will continue to improve. So that's positive, even though you may be impatient and, of course, want it to be all over. But the other thing might be for the sleep. What about doing an extra half teaspoon of Remag at night? Have you tried that?
Right before bed, I haven't. Sometimes I go to, I'll take a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of Remag and Recalcium and drink that through the night because I wake up a lot. But maybe just take a whole half teaspoon with one big swallow. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Okay,
correct.
I haven't.
Correct. Yeah, because see what happens, Jackie, at night with folks who have what you probably know I call total body meltdown is the adrenals are going to be affected too, and you may have more cortisol at night, and even a dream will wake you up because you're not getting deep enough, and all that's going on. So giving yourself a good dose of Remag right at bedtime sometimes can really diminish all that activity in your brain and in your adrenals and give you an extended, deeper sleep.
Okay, because I do have elevated cortisol and, had adrenal fatigue. Sure. One more quick question, if I may.
Sure.
So I became, and I did have a total body meltdown, and I became highly sensitive to everything. That is getting better, which I'm very grateful for, but sight and sound and, light, I should say, at night, and sound, and even, EMF sensitivity, which was horrendous to experience. And so, I was told, well, you don't want to put, I got all my dental amalgams removed, 12 of them, and that has helped, but I was told, do not ingest any silver products, because I'm really trying to get the metal out of my system. So does the silver, is there a residue that maintains the body? Or
No, I'll tell you where I've even said that, even about Remag. If you have mercury amalgams in your teeth, you shouldn't hold minerals in your mouth. But I've never heard that a silver product is bad for someone who has mercury. I've never heard that. But I know that rumors are around that will say such things. If you find something scientific that says don't use silver if you have mercury, then let me know. But I haven't come across it. But
it was a nutritionist who really cautioned me with it. But she wasn't an MD. She had a nutritional background. So okay, I'm going to try it because I would really like to get rid of the yeast or the bacteria or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dr. Dean, thank you so much. I have many more questions, but I won't keep you. I'm sure there's other callers, but I just really appreciate all the great information, and I'll try more moving towards the keto and see if that helps.
Right, just keto with more calories, more fat calories, not for the weight loss. Yes, Jackie, great questions. We're at the top of the hour anyway, but you can always email customer service or come on every week and ask us more questions because they were all important questions.
Hey, Carolyn, is Jackie on anything else?
Right.
I am.
Okay, well, that's what we need to know.
Okay.
Email customer service support at rnareset.com and ask for the Tier 2 questionnaire so we can get all the right information. Thanks, Bob. Dr. Bob, again, is on the job. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you,
You're welcome, Jackie.
Thanks, Bob. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Ginny. Ginny, you've got half a minute to wrap up.
Yes, I just wanted to say that Jackie and others can call in week to week. We've had many people do that and support at RNA Reset. For anyone listening to the archive and has ongoing questions, we will be able to get them to Dr. Dean. It was a great show, Carolyn. Thank you for your treasury of your wisdom, as Bob would say. And thanks, Bob, for helping out. It was wonderful.
All right. Thank you, Ginny. Good show.
Thanks, Ginny. Good show, yeah. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, callers and listeners.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week. That's right. Be well. Amen. Mm-hmm. Bye.
Amen.
You've been listening to Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Till next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
AchieveRadio.com.
You humans, you are marvelous creators. Marvelous creators. Every time they try to hem you up into a situation or a place of knowing,